Hey guys, it's Tyler with TCG Rewind. Today I wanted to bring you guys a couple different things. You know, we got to talk about Tengu Plant Takeover 4. That tournament was our monthly Tengu Plant tournament in the Tengu Plant Discord. That took place this last weekend, so I want to do a breakdown of what kind of topped it, what was seen. It was a really cool tournament. And then also I want to talk about Tengu Mania 3, which is literally this weekend. So, you know, if you missed this tournament, this is a great time to come enter Tengu Mania. It is a massive tournament, probably one of our biggest ones. We have like, I think only like 3 or 4 a year, but these tournaments, like, the mods put money into the prize pool, so it's free entry. It takes place on dueling books. You don't got to worry about having any cards, and then there's like at least $100 some for first place. And I'm not sure if that goes up or not, you know, depending. We have crowdfunding going for it, so depending on how much we end up getting, it all goes into the prize pool. The goal is to, you know, make sure that we can provide the most prize support as possible, and, you know, keep it as, you know, minimally expensive for you guys, which means, you know, not buying cards and not having to pay an entry fee. So I'm gonna put a link to the Discord for the Tengu Plant server in my description below. Make sure you guys join that. It's going to be this coming Saturday. So Saturday the 21st, we'll be having a Tengu Plant tournament. It's going to be a big one, and you guys should definitely be in it. If you don't have a deck, if you don't know much about the format, go to my website, tcgrewind.com. You can download a deck from there, and you can modify it, or you can just run with the deck that's put on there, right? So nice and simple if you want to just at least experience the format. There's nothing to lose. Only, you know, potential money to gain from winning, so that's really cool. But anyway, let's look at the meta breakdown. This nice little graph that PhotoStudio put together. These are all the decks that were represented in the Tengu Plant Takeover 4 tournament. So we had 3 Herald, 1 Herald Agents, or 3 Agents, 1 Herald Agent. So that's going to be like Herald of Perfection Agents, and then 2 Standard Agents. We had 2 Jurak. We had 2 Gravekeeper, we had 1 Karakuri, 1 Psychic, 1 Infernity, 1 Flamvelsorn, 1 Zombie, 1 Piper Quick Draw, 1 Diva Hero, 1 Scrap, and then 3 Tengu Plant. This is really interesting because we actually saw representation for Jurak, which I've never seen. I've never seen 1 be played in a tournament, let alone 2 in the same one. So I thought that was really interesting that we just like happened to see it. And we're gonna move on to what top 8 was. Usually people kind of show like the top 4, but I like giving, you know, give credit where it's due, you know, show top 8, see what decks like actually were having some momentum in the tournament, right? So here's our top 8 breakdown. We had GraphaDragonLord. He was playing GK, and him and Amazing Mike Man are like tied for 7th, 8th. And he was playing Jurak, so we actually saw one of those Jurak decks make top 8. We'll go over that in a second because that's definitely hype. Like I said, you'd never really see anyone playing that deck in this in these tournaments. Then we had WuLord, who was playing a Herald of Perfection Agent deck, except it wasn't like the one with like the Djinn and the Tour Guide. He was kind of playing his own version of it, and it was kind of scary. He was running Safe Zone with Herald, which once you get Safe Zone equipped to Herald, there's almost nothing that's going to out that Herald. And we kind of ended up getting to see that on stream. And then Darksigner, fittingly with his name, he was playing Infernity, so that's really cool. And then we had Karakuri in 4th place, Tengu Plants in 3rd, Zombies in 2nd, and then Himne took 1st with Gravekeeper. So let's go ahead and let's go through each of their lists. So GraphaDragonLord, we'll take a look at his Gravekeeper list. So he was playing what looks like a bit more like a standard Gravekeeper. He was opting to run 2 compulsory, which I find is really interesting because oftentimes, like, at least for me, I've always found that compulsory has been really underwhelming in this format. So I'm curious how that like went for him. He also is opting for like kind of like the max number of each Gravekeeper, which if you once we compare it to Himne's list, you'll kind of see the difference. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty standard. He has skill drain in the side, which I'm curious about that as well. I mean, I guess maybe it probably hurts your opponent more than it hurts you because you're only turning off your Descendant pops at that point, and I guess your Spies. I don't really know how I feel about it. I think it's like, okay. Me personally, I think it's really good to run 3D Prison, so I would at least cut the compulsories down. I don't know how much success he had with it, but overall, pretty standard GK list, nothing too crazy or fancy. We have Amazing Mike Man with the Jurak, so we'll go over to that. Now this is spicy. So this is similar. So My build for Jirax, I liked running Tengu, and I also ran Decree. Reason I like Tengu is because Tengu sticks on the board, and then if you summon a Guaiba and swing over, you just have a free Trish right there, which is really, really strong. But he opted to not run Tengu. He ended up running 3 Dino and then 2 Thunder King, which I find really interesting. And then he even, like, instead of running Decree in the main, he just went for, like, the main, like, Tengu Plant-esque back row, which I kind of like that change. I don't think that's that terrible. Like I said, I think the biggest thing that I would prefer is I do think Tengu, it makes a lot of sense in this deck and is very strong. But, I mean, shout out to him for taking Jurak the distance, right? Like, I mean, making top 8 with this deck is no joke. I don't think this deck is, like, particularly insane or anything, but he made it work, so that's really, really cool. Then we had WuLord on the Herald of Perfection. So this was his spicy list. We saw Backup Soldier come up a lot on stream where he's just adding like a bunch of these vanilla cards into his hand as discard fodder for the Herald. It's interesting that he maxed out on copies of Sonic Bird just to try to guarantee that he could search the Advanced Ritual Art or the Dawn of the Herald. He's only running 1 Dawn of Herald and 1 Advanced Ritual Art, which I find really unique. But yeah, this list like looks kind of janky, but I will say it did perform pretty well. It was pretty intimidating. I don't know if this version with like running the vanilla monsters is just inherently better than the one that runs Tour Guide and Dijin, because I feel like what he's accomplishing with the safe zone on the safe zone on the Herald is a bit redundant. Herald's already kind of inherently hard to out, and then if you run the Dijin combo, I think you just get to run better cards and they can't out it. So I'm not really sure why he decided to go this route, but it did perform well, so I guess it works out. I like that there's a spicy trap eater here on the side. But yeah, pretty unique Herald of Perfection list. He's even only running 2 Hyperion, which is interesting, and even like we see 1 Venus here and then like 3 Earth. So he's kind of like minimizing the agents and just really focusing on the ritual side of things. So maybe the goal is just to like as consistently as possible just set up Herald turn 1 with safe zone, which again is very hard to out, but I just don't know if it's like as necessary or as good as just doing the Tour Guide into the Jin combo. All right, and then we had Infernity in 5th, and this is honestly probably one of the highest placed Infernities lists we've had in like our tournament history so far, which is really, really cool. And he was playing Zero Max, which I don't know if we ever found out if the monster misses timing on the Zero Max activation. It's like a monster reborn, and then it pops a card if it has like less attack than the monster you bring back. If it doesn't, this card's really, really good. I think we were currently on the fact that it doesn't, but someone in the comments might know this card a bit better and can tell me if that's actually how it works. But overall, watching this deck, it actually performed pretty well. I like that he actually did put a Space and even a Heavy Storm in his main deck compared to the other build we typically see, the Hydro Pump list. Without MST, I think you can kind of, especially in like a larger scale tournament, you have a chance of seeing so much variety that I think it's really important to have an MST just to guarantee you can get a combo off. 3 Infernity Break is pretty interesting too. Like I think it's just going off the idea that instead of committing for 1 giant combo, your goal is just to like be able to occasionally search one of these cards to like in the grindier moments, and it might be a bit better. I know when I watched his matches, he would oftentimes go through multiple barrier before even resolving a combo. So yeah, that's pretty unique. But overall, really cool list. I really like it. He even has drag down to snipe hand traps, which I think is really cool. So that's like a cool approach. He didn't go for the Infernity Randomizer side strategy, which I'm curious about because I actually really like that strategy. I think that's really good. But yeah, overall, really cool list. I mean, sick that he made like 5th, 6th with Infernity, because like I said, I don't think an Infernity deck has placed higher than that before. Next up, we have Aki, or he had a different name. But he was playing Car Curry. So we'll take a look. Let's see. I think I like this list a bit better than some of the other ones I've seen. I like that he opted for 3 Quick, because I think Quick is just one of the best cards in the deck. Like, I think this card is so strong. This looks like pretty standard. He did opt for instant fusion just as an extra extender. Let's take a look. Yeah, and he even went with like this is kind of my method thing here, where you run 2 instant fusion but you only run the 1 Cybersaurus, because once this goes off, it goes off. I don't know how I feel about instant fusion, because like I've tested it and it's like it feels really good if you don't get interrupted, but it just gives your opponent a window to Maxi you, and that, like, this deck actually is really good at playing around Maxi just inherently. So yeah, I like the smashing ground inside. You side it in to deal with Thunder King. But yeah, this is really standard Karakuri, but I do think the list looks very clean, so I definitely like it. Next up we have Jin. He was playing Tengu Plants, and this is looking this is looking like your standard Billy Break plant list, except it looks like he added a Mirror Force to the group. I'm not sure what he opted to cut enemy controller. That's really interesting. He has them inside. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know how I feel about that. I personally think enemy controller is one of, if not the best card in Tengu Plants. I think it has so many versatile plays, so I don't know why you wouldn't main it, and I certainly don't know if you're like cutting it to not main it, why you would side it. But I mean, Jin did play really well as far as I saw, and you know, taking third is no joke, but pretty unique approach. I like Mirror Force because, again, I always say these like traps like this that are outside of the standard Billy Break lineup typically catch people off guard. So Mirror Force is, you know, Mirror Force is like kind of cool to like catch people off guard. But yeah, for the most part, cut it down to 40 cards. I don't even know if that's necessary. Since you're running Tengus and you don't want to hard draw multiples, I don't think it's bad to go above 40 cards in a deck like Tengu Plants. And again, I mean, just fitting in these enemy controllers, I think could have been a bit better. But, you know, other than that, pretty standard list. And then Necro back at it again, taking second place with zombies. This is the Necro special, right? Like, and honestly, I don't think his list has really changed much at all. It looks pretty much the same as the last tournament. Ironically, he took second place with the exact same list. Necro is just a zombie player. But I do think that he has made a decent case for this being like one of the strongest ways to build zombies. I do really like his build, and I actually kind of want to try it myself. I think it looks like fun. So yeah, this is a pretty cool list. But yeah, it's pretty much exactly what we saw at the last one. And then lastly, we have Himne, who took first with GK, and ironically, this is the same list he took at the last tournament. He didn't place nearly as well, but this one he did. And of course, in his screenshot, he said, if at first you don't succeed, then you're not Seto Kaiba, which is pretty funny. So yeah, it's basically the same thing. It's like the idea of like that Royal Tribute Turbo. You got 3 Duality, 3 Upstart with 3 Wonder Wand, and then you run Rite of Spirit to support the Wonder Wand, so you can like basically loop bringing back Recruiter with Rite of Spirit and then drawing cards. So it's really cool. I do really like this list. I like that he's only running 1 Descendant, because this card can feel really bricky. I feel like when I play Gravekeepers, there's not a lot of times where I really want to use the Descendant pop. Destruction's like kind of underwhelming in this format as is. So I do kind of like the approach to this list, and I think Rite of Spirit is actually a great card. I really like this card. Just being a chainable back row that, you know, can bring back monsters through Necro Valley, I think is absolutely insane. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this card. Overall, really spicy tournament. We have 8 unique decks, right? Like, I mean, I guess we had 2 Gravekeepers repeating. So what does it say about going into Tengu Mania? I think it says that people need to kind of be watching out for Gravekeepers. And if you want to counter Gravekeepers, if you're afraid of Gravekeepers going into Tengu Mania, a really good deck choice might be TG. Going into Tengu Mania, because of the fact that TG has an excellent matchup against Gravekeepers. Gravekeepers doesn't really deal well with floaters, and TGs don't really have any issue with Necro Valley, and since they run a low monster count, they don't have a lot of risk towards getting Royal Tributed. So TG strategies might actually be pretty strong moving into the next tournament. I also think the psychic list that I took to the remote duel locals could actually perform really well in the next tournament if people stick to this like idea of running more gravekeepers, because it's pretty dominant, or it's pretty powerful when Dark World is off the table, which the Tengu Mania is going to be playing under the Toronto pool, so no Dark World. But I also think Car Curry is always a safe bet. Tengu Plants, again, always a safe bet. And Agent's also going to always be a safe bet. I'm sure we're going to see Necro on his traditional zombies. But yeah, if you're thinking about maybe what to play going into the next tournament, I might encourage you to try some TG strategies just to deal with the Gravekeepers, but there's a good chance people switch it up. Hibne is a guy who, after he wins with something, he kind of goes on to his next project, so I don't know if he'll stick with Gravekeepers going into Tengu Mania. He might be a completely different thing. But yeah, other than that, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. So as a reminder, make sure you guys are subscribed. We're going to be streaming Tengu Mania this weekend, and it's going to be a doozy, so you guys really got to make sure you're hopping on, seeing all that amazing content, all that amazing gameplay that we're going to be having, because this is the big boy. And if you're not in it, you definitely want to watch it. But I would highly encourage you guys to join, so make sure you click that link in the description below. Make sure you're subscribed to me to see this upcoming content, and thank you so much for watching. Make sure you guys have a great time dueling today.